I talk a lot about the three context shifts that are happening right now in the world that affect property managers. This idea of Wall Street rushing into the space and the great affordability crisis that's happening right now, and how that's completely changed the perceptions of property managers from the outside, like the president's issuing executive orders. I talk about the great generational wealth transfer, this idea that boomers are handing down their wealth to millennials and how that's going to change the client base. And I talk about the new tooling, right? This context change of like agentic AI coming in and allowing you to completely service this new context even better. But today, I want to dive deeper into one. I want to dive deeper into what it means, what this context shift of millennials becoming your clients means. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. In reality, I think we know as property managers that context is everything. Understanding the condition allows you to make the best decision. And that's why every major shift in history has been driven by a big change in context, right? Like the dawn of the internet, COVID, right? All these big things that have happened to us happened because the context changes, and now there's either new problems or new ways to solve old problems. And this great generational wealth transfer, right? We're entering this period where $84 trillion are moving from boomers to millennials. That includes the rental property portfolios, right? So if you're a property manager, you're about to inherit a new type of client. And that type of client does not think like your current owners. So if you don't evolve, right? If you don't change your own context to fit their needs, they're not going to do business with you. They have more options than ever. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the millennials and how they think, right? I consider myself one of the oldest millennials, right? Like born in 1980, so I'm 44, but very much identify with that generation. And it's a generation where we just don't think information is power, right? Like we've never had to debate trivia. Like we have to turn off our phones on purpose to debate trivia, right? Like we never had to get in an argument about how many games Cal Ripken started in his big streak, or who won the Oscar in 1989 or something like that, right? Like it's always been at our fingertips. It's been Google. So this assumption that information is instantly accessible is embedded in us. Expertise alone isn't going to win them over, right? It's not an information game. It's not choices that's going to win them over. If something isn't clear, the instinct is, isn't there an app for this, right? Like, isn't there some kind of application that makes this easy? That is the first thing that we look for. On top of that, we grew up as a very kind of guided experience generation, right? Like we're post latchkey parenting, the rise of helicopter parents, and it was a structured, curated environment, right? Like we had school, then sports after school, then come home and do the thing, then weekend sports and things like that, right? Like very familiar with kind of what kids are going through these days. Millennials were the first ones to be raised that way. So extracurriculars, school programs, and we're the first to just kind of get used to being served through digital experiences, right? Like most of my classes in college were online, right? Like we're just used to this stuff. So we expect frictionless decision making, right? Like not choices, but solutions. Tell us what to do. Don't tell me, here are all the different things you can pick. You tell me, it's guide me, right? Like show me what to do. And the idea that they're going to tolerate slow or ambiguous property management processes because that's just the best way that you can run your business, is just not going to really sit very well. Let's talk about something else that millennials have shown. They were the pioneers of the DIY and shared economy. Early adopters in Uber, Airbnb, and gig work, right? Shown to be comfortable cobbling together solutions to fit their needs, whether it's your career or whether it is a group of apps to do the thing that you want to do, right? Like it's something that's been inherent to us, and we don't really fear experimentation. So if a traditional property management kind of engagement isn't meeting our needs as millennials, we're much more likely to look elsewhere, right? Like so used to the Google thing that's like, well, why can't I find another one in my market? Even more, why isn't there an app for that, right? Like, wait a minute, if I have 5 properties and I'm paying my property manager somewhere in the world in the realm of like $10,000 to $15,000 a year to manage those properties, can't I find a computer program that's going to do most of this stuff? Is going to be a very natural thought. And let's face it, that stuff is coming. It's coming with AI. It's never been more scalable and more doable for a rookie property manager to manage their own properties. And on top of that, so like you could see them turning into these like micro property management companies, bringing this like ground up disruption, because if they can manage their 5 properties, maybe they can manage their 5 and like their buddies 10 and then maybe 20, right? So all of a sudden you've got these like tiny competitors that are just part of the gig economy. It's part of what they do, and they're able to just like figure this stuff out, right? So this idea that a property manager could be seen as a middleman, right? Like what if millennials are very used to seeing, we haven't used travel agents. We no longer use taxis, right? We use Ubers, even financial advisors, right? Robinhood, self-serve, all these kinds of like things have conditioned us to cut out overhead expenses. And the idea that we need instant answers and intelligent automation, right? Like the reports that we're seeing where I think it wasn't the PM trends report, it was the op standards, right? This idea that property managers are used to answering in like 2 days or 3 days to like maintenance requests and things of that sort. Millennials are going to expect that. Then the PM trends report showed that people expect an answer. Many people expect an answer within an hour, and the majority expect an answer within a day, right? So that is these statistics starting to come to light. These millennial preferences of expecting real-time data. At the end of the day, I myself have never needed to write a check. I've always had mobile banking. If my bank can provide me with these things, and that's what I'm used to, that's what I'm going to expect. So meeting these expectations, how do we do it, right? Like the sky is not falling. At the end of the day, this is why a new expectation needs new tooling, and that's the other context shift. This idea that we've gone from softwares that make our jobs a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient, to generative AI that makes it even more efficient, more easy, to now a completely different thing, agentic AI. Tools that do the job for us, right? Not SaaS, that still requires human involvement, but AI that does execution, that replaces us from these like repetitive, mundane tasks that just are time consuming and our brain space consuming, and can allow us to focus on the things that move the needle. This is the solution for, escaping this invisibility trap that we talk about, right? If you're not stuck in the mundane, you're able to drive the things that really, really matter, right? You're able to give millennials this guided experience while everything else is just like being handled. Your team, your most talented people get to spend time educating them about their NOI and the asset class and why this is better than crypto, right? When something goes wrong, you're not just kind of like cobbling things together. You can be there for them, give them that guided experience, all because agentic AI can do it in the background, right? So That's what we're working on here at Vendoroo. It's this idea of, man, if we can take 80 to 85% of your maintenance orders completely off the plate, right, and allow you to spend your time thinking about how you're going to serve this new market, or babysitting these like 15 to 20% of work orders that really need it, or let's just face it, babysitting the harder clients, right? Like the ones that have unreasonable expectations, it's going to increase. These expectations are going to increase in the marketplace, and that same tool, that same agentic AI that you can employ to like handle your problems, millennials are going to be looking for their own solutions to do it. So it's either you operationalize it or they operationalize it. So that's essentially the millennial context shift, right? Paired with the AI context shift. And it's just one of many things that are changing in our world. And it reminds me of this this quote that I heard in this podcast today, actually. It was the CEO of Sequoia Capital, right? One of the most famous venture capital funds in the world that's done the best. He said, if you're going to build a marketing plan, tell me what the market is doing and then build a plan for it, right? So it's the same thing. If you're building a property management company in one of these context shifts, understand the context shift, understand what the market wants, and build a plan for it. And to me, this plan is going to run right through the middle of you understanding how to do the basic through agentic AI so that you can really, really handle the critical with you and your humans and the team that you have built.